Hello, everyone. It is very exciting to see all of you come together to our first chapter webinar of the year. Today, we will be focusing on member recruitment and have some very insightful information from our speakers today. This topic was highly demanded from most of our chapters from last year's annual reports and from the color retreat we had at last year's conference in Puerto Rico. So I'll go ahead and get started with a quick introduction of myself for those of you who don't know me yet. My name is Angel Rebollar, and I am part of the SACNAS staff working as our programs coordinator. I have been working with SACNAS for a year and a half now and have been working a lot more closely with our chapters in the past like half yearish. So I will be your main point of contact from the national office along with the help of my colleague Daniela Bernal, Associate Director of Member Services, who is in this meeting as well. So I will first be laying out the agenda before we get started. So we will have 5 different speakers from 5 different SACNAS chapters, all coming from the UC Davis Grad and Postdoc chapter, the University of California, Los Angeles chapter, the University of California, San Francisco chapter, the University of Massachusetts at Amherst chapter, and the Duquesne University SACNAS chapter. So they'll all be speaking for around 5 to 7 minutes each. Then I'll be making a hard stop around the 30 to 35-minute mark and open up the floor for any questions and a general discussion, for the rest of the hour. So if you could please save your questions until they finalize presenting, I would appreciate it. But yeah, we'll get started with Jasmine Esparza from the UC Davis Grad and Postdoc chapter.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jasmine Esparza, so I am the president of the grad student and postdoc SACNAS chapter at UC Davis. So give me a second so I can share my screen. I did have some notes prepared. Okay, so can everyone see a Google Doc? Yeah, okay,
Yes.
Cool. Awesome, thank you. So our chapter is relatively new since we're specifically focused on grad students and postdocs at UC Davis. We started at the end of 2020. So here's our very rough list of the recruitment strategies that have been successful for us. One thing that I've noticed to make it as easy as possible for members to just sign up and get on our newsletter is having one quick and easy Google form for people to sign up very quickly, getting their information, their email to put onto the our newsletter, as well as having a separate submission form so that people can put the email that's associated with the national membership. So that's been really helpful. We also encourage people to sign up for the national membership by entering them in a raffle at the end of the year. One thing that I also found really helpful is to have a link tree. A lot of social media influencers use this, just have a link of all the links. So there, what we have is includes our website, our Instagram, our Twitter, any RSVP links that we have for any upcoming events, and we have them sorted by event type. And we make sure that this link is what gets posted anywhere. So rather than providing people with our website link, we just give them this link tree that has everything on there. We have really easy to fulfill member requirements. So because we're grad student and postdoc focused, we know there's just going to be times where people just cannot do any extracurriculars. So our membership requirements are to sign up for the mailing list and attend at least one event per quarter. For our, in order to make sure that all of the chapter officers know what the protocol is in order to make these events advertised widely throughout the UC Davis campus, what I have created was an advertisement checklist. So essentially it's just who exactly are we sending out the links for or event info in order to have this dispersed as widely as possible. So we have also created a contact list of all of the graduate coordinators and graduate program coordinators in Google Contacts. And so, you just create it as a group, you can put that in there, sends out to everyone. But again, there's a lot of things that are very specific to Davis. So we make sure we kind of have that in there as well. Depending on the type of event, then we'll utilize different avenues of advertisement. Next, what we've tried doing is maximizing ad space. And what I mean by that is having, again, this link tree or any link to get people to go to find out more about your SACNAS chapter, having that anywhere that people can see. So typically, when someone who doesn't know anything about SACNAS chapter, typically they'll see an event flyer and that's where they first hear about you. So if you have that event flyer linked to a Google form for an RSVP, what I have in there is always a link to the national chapter, a link to our specific chapter, and we have a separate undergraduate chapter. And then always have a link that can add that event into their Google Calendar, so they don't need to think twice about making sure all the information is correct and all the location information is there. Then within that Google Calendar download that they can have, again, also having a link tree in there that gives you other events that they can find out about, the website, anything like that. So again, this is all a lot of just redundancy in order to make sure that there's as much visibility to get people to find out more about your chapter, and have them just, join like really cool events, because I'm sure like we're all very passionate about SACNAS. So I'm just trying to make sure that it gets out as much as possible. One thing that we have found particularly helpful is to continue gathering information on how people heard about an event. Since we use so many avenues to disperse our event information, I find that it's really helpful to see, okay, how exactly did they find this event? So then we can keep maximizing how the event gets advertised. So if there's one particular department that we always get students from this department, their grad coordinator, works really well with us to spread the information, is always really helpful and everything, then we may, reach out to them more if we have any like specific events that may be curated, maybe just for their department, things like that may be helpful. For UC Davis specifically, at our College of Biological Sciences, they have like an event submission form that any student can submit, and it will come up on the College of Biological Sciences event page. We also have LCD screens around campus, and you just apply, you make like a flyer, and it gets posted around all the LCD screens. One thing that I also found really helpful is on the chapter website, having a tab that is really highlighting what we do best. For our specific chapter, we're really good about outreach. So we have a tab that has pictures and a lot of like different types of outreach events that we have done. So again, just like trying to really show people, through pictures or like past events, this is the things that we've previously done, so you can get an idea of what we're going to do in the future. For whenever we do fundraisers, typically I link it directly to the outreach page, and that gives more visibility in terms of people knowing what their funds will go to, so then they'll be more likely to help. In the beginning, what really helped us a lot was collaborations with other graduate student organizations, other science-based organizations on campus. Because again, like we didn't want to create the wheel if it's already been done by somebody else. So we would just collaborate on as many events as possible. Again, trying to bring half of the funding for whatever food or items that needed to be done, and then having two different organizations having some events. And then last 2 points that I'll make for some questions that I think people submitted is, how do we get people to join even though they're not Native American or Latinx? And for our specific SACNAS chapter, what I have been doing is just saying like we're open to anyone of any background, any department, as long as they share our same mission of diversifying science and diversifying STEM. So that's what I say all the time. And then to get people to actually attend these events, I always say, food is always going to get people there, at least initially. And then really try having the officers interact with the different people there to, really get that personality in there. And then small little take-home items is always really helpful. Yeah, and I think that is it for me.
Awesome. Thank you, Jasmine. But yeah, I'll be passing it along to Marisol Arellano and Jose Soto from the UCLA chapter.
Hello, everybody, and I'd like to thank the organizers of this event for inviting us, and we're very excited to be here and to share what has worked for us, and learning how you can always improve how we can recruit more individuals, but also retain that community over time. Now I have some slides that we'll be sharing. Let me just pull that up. so I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Marisol Arellano. I am one of the co-presidents of the SACNAS UCLA chapter. Jose is one of our board members. If he'd like to introduce himself.
Yeah. I'm Jose. I'm a second-year PhD student, and I am the graduate student representative for SACNAS at UCLA chapter. So for recruiting, one of the things that we do to gain and keep our members is to build community, and also to keep it fun. So to start off, for our board meetings where we meet with all the board members, one of the things we like to do to keep it fun is do this icebreaker called Happies and Crappies, where we essentially just check in on everybody throughout the quarter and recognize each other as people outside of the board and outside of school, and ask what are things that you're doing that make you happy, or what are things that are going on that are not so happy, and that this also provides like a forum to like talk about difficult times and building that community within the board members at least. And then extending that, we do fun icebreakers during our general body meetings. And as an example, during our last board meeting, what we did was we asked people to find somebody they didn't know, and then tell them what superpower you would choose if you could choose one superpower. And then the other person has to tell you like, okay, what's the limit to your superpower? And that was very successful. I feel like a lot of people were willing to meet somebody new, because what the board members like to do is take initiative by going to go find people that we haven't met before, and people who are new faces to our meetings. And as soon as they see others take initiative, then usually the rest of the general body will follow suit. With our socials, we like to have a lot of holiday themed events, and we do food socials and fundraisers. At a recent general body meeting, we had waffles, and we decorated these waffles with Valentine's hearts because of Valentine's Day. And soon we're going to be having a fundraiser with Share Tea, which is a boba location. So people can come and support our organization by buying boba and putting SACNAS at checkout. So these are just creative ways to perform these two activities. Previously, we've also done study nights where we invite people to just hang out, have some snacks, and hang out with familiar faces. And having built these connections already really enable these study nights to work, because a lot of the times you will have seen the same people at previous events. And then another thing that we like to do too is provide personal development workshops. As it relates to SACNAS, one of our most recent board general body meetings, we actually talked about how to apply to the SACNAS travel grant. And we had a big turnout because there's a lot of people interested in attending the national conference. So serving as the relay at UCLA to our general body is a good way to get people interested in the national org.
Yeah, and just kind of talking about that last point, member recruitment and retention. We talked about how people typically hear about SACNAS on campus, usually because there are events that we're putting together, programming that we're putting together to benefit the community. And so it's about providing workshops and opportunities to members that they can take information from to then carry on to help them become successful in their academic careers, and their as they're navigating for many of them in our community, for being the first in their families to be in this huge place and with the goal to graduate at the end. And so we just wanted to share this kind of outline for the take that we usually try to plan out the academic year at the very beginning, and the kinds of workshops that we can offer to the community. And so with careful planning and planning in advance, we're able to offer regular workshops And so an example is, in the fall, you might have your first general body meeting and introduction, and we have like kind of coded like what kinds of demographics this might be have appeal to. Our chapter is both like an undergrad and graduate chapter. We do have postdocs who are very actively involved in our chapter, and we're also very fortunate to have a faculty support. And so all of that is a really important part of what we believe makes our chapter successful, because we have worked really hard to build these connections, and not only building them but sustaining them over time. And so that has been one of the keys to our success, we believe. And so then, as we're talking about winter, we're on the quarter system. We did just have a SACNAS travel scholarship workshop, but these are just to give you an idea of what kinds of programming might be applicable to your respective institutions, that might have appeal, might be timed with some of those outside opportunities that we're always trying to get our members to know more about and ultimately apply to in the end. And so we wanted to talk a little bit about how we develop these events, and it's kind of in conjunction with recruitment and also increasing member participation, where we have the kind of the tabling events and social like media campus events, where that is where we get a majority of our outside visibility on campus. And so tabling on Bruin Walk, for an example, it's like this main walkway on campus that a lot of other organizations table on as well as providing mentorship and leadership roles. One of the things that our board does is having a shadow board, where essentially you're kind of shadowing somebody who is in that position, and it allows new people who may not have any leadership experience to know a little bit more about how the organization works and gain a little bit of experience. So when elections come around, they have some hands-on experience that they can talk about as well. In addition, we do have a scientific excellence through diversity seminar series, where we invite professors who are coming from backgrounds, minority underrepresented backgrounds, who have really been leaders in their field, and not just academically, but professionally. And so that is something that we also offer leadership roles in learning how do you even set up a seminar series. And so that's a semi-regular seminar that happens throughout the academic year. As well, as was mentioned by the last speaker, Jasmine, a collaboration with other organizations, and not just on-campus organizations like that share similar missions, which is a big part of getting to know other people that may have similar missions but might have a different target demographic. I think it's also been a really important part of our success is collaborating with departments. We have an outreach event that's going to be happening fairly soon that partners with like a on-campus department, and they have their own budget, and that really extends the reach, because for a lot of the things that we do, you need money and kind of there is more power in numbers, and especially if you have institutional support and having these partnerships with departments on campus, that does extend the reach that we have on campus, and increasing that member participation, having opportunities for members to participate in these outreach events as well.
And then just to close it out, we always try to say thank you, and by different ways, by doing that through social media, doing membership recognition, just recognizing participation throughout the year, during our general meetings, through quarterly raffle prizes. And then in the past, we've also sent thank you cards and messages to the general body.
Yeah, and then to echo, some of those submitted questions, we also have a similar kind of message with if kind of in the name, it's Native Americans and Hispanics, Chicanos in science, but we do say that it's anybody. We're open to anybody from any major, any background, and what we're really trying to do is build a community that is inclusive and to foster the success of students on campus. And so to that end, that is just having that message be on any sort of outward front. So all of our socials and in our newsletter, trying to make sure that we're being as inclusive as possible in that messaging is something that we actively strive for. And I don't recall what the second question might be, but I'd be happy to answer any questions on any of the material that we shared today. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Marisol and Jose. That was really great. So now I'll be passing it along to Luis Santiago from the UC San Francisco chapter.
Hello, thank you. It's great to hear what everyone's up to. Yeah, I'm Luis. I am the president at SACNAS at UCSF. I'm a second year. And I guess UCSF is really kind of unique because it's really kind of built around a hospital. So there's no undergraduates here. It's all graduate medical students. And that kind of makes recruitment kind of a little more challenging because you kind of have to gear your content towards what those kind of needs are. And a big thing that we've found success is like what other people have mentioned is collaborating with student groups. So kind of getting our names out there. So medical student associations, there's the Latino Medical Association, a Black Medical Student Association. So collaborating with them. Also other graduate division kind of groups who are kind of leading similar diversity promoting events like for BSTEM for Black students or LGBTQ plus and like women in life sciences. So we collaborate very, very heavily with them. So we just kind of help support each other's events and kind of have a network of like, oh, so you're interested in certain kind of communities, then they can like gear you towards SACNAS or some other group. And also, since this is all graduate school, UCSF has a lot of summer programs that are geared towards undergrads and high schools, and some are national and some are kind of local. And so SACNAS members go and kind of serve as mentors, or if they have like lunches, like weekly lunches, we just kind of offer to go and talk to students. And that kind of really gets our name out there, kind of like in a recruitment like side, because these undergrads or high school students learn about SACNAS here and how involved it is with the community, and they kind of like to see that. And so I just kind of pulled a slide out from our general meeting most recently, and just kind of like, this is kind of what I showed to the whole room, and kind of like showing them a broad strokes of like who our partners are and where are the opportunities to kind of work with. And some people are local to San Francisco, so maybe in undergrad or high school, they work with a different organization. And then once at UCSF, they kind of bring that connection to our SACNAS chapter. So it's been super helpful to kind of promote giving back to the community and getting people involved in our chapter. And also social media has been really important with us. UCSF, the campus thing the website for the group isn't as open to like outside community, outside people. So we kind of are focused more on Instagram and like Twitter and email listservs to really promote our events and opportunities that come up. And as I mentioned earlier, we're kind of pretty involved in recruitment. So a lot of our SACNAS members go to the national conference for their program to promote the school and also the chapter here. And we have a poster and like a banner that we put up for recruitments and like interview kind of weekends. So like students walking by the halls through UCSF can see like, oh, this is like there's a SACNAS chapter meeting coming soon, or like some event. So that's been really cool to kind of see that get people's attention. And also, I guess something that's really been cool to see develop here at UCSF is, since it's all kind of geared toward grad students and postdocs, we heavily kind of promote industry partnerships. So this is like, it's kind of easier than I would imagine, but we invite like a company like Denali or Genentech or something, and like, oh, do you have like a day to come and talk about an internship or something like that? And you just kind of set a date, and they kind of bring everything else like food and like merch and stuff like that. And that's kind of like a really easy way to kind of bring this kind of like level of scientists to the SACNAS events that we have. And while they're there, we kind of introduce the company, but we also say, so this is a great way to like meet, network with the community here at SACNAS and get involved with like these kinds of partnerships too. So that's been really, really helpful in recruiting people to our chapter. And I guess something also that was brought up before is like, how do you include other communities to SACNAS? And I kind of share this. So it's, in the general meeting, I like to showcase what the origin is of SACNAS, because it like encompasses what we're doing. But I really end it on this kind of note where we're supporting a diverse community of all backgrounds, and that everyone is welcome to our events and kind of like our leadership if they want, as long as they kind of hold these kind of values in their like their mindset while they're doing this stuff. So this has been pretty successful. We've gotten grad students and postdocs from all sorts of backgrounds to help with events or come to events. And yeah, I guess also another thing in addition to this is like, if SACNAS has like a partnership with like the graduate division or something like that, or school or medical school, I do openly like say like, oh, so this is like the name of the organization, but we do promote like any diverse community of students to come. It's not, I'm not gearing it towards a specific kind of people. So yeah. And I can answer any more questions about graduate student or postdoc recruitment after.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much for that. And just to give a quick reminder, after the following two speakers, I will ask for all attendees to turn on the camera for a group photo. But yeah, I will remind all of you, you know, when we're done with them. So yeah, just to put your gel on, whatever you have to get ready. So yeah, I'll pass it along to Yahaira Bermudez, Nadia Fernandez, and Natasha De La Rosa from the UMass Amherst chapter.
Hi, everyone. I'm going to be speaking for the UMass chapter group, but Natasha and Yadi are here as well in attendance. And I'm going to share my screen. Okay, I think, sorry, give me 1 second. Okay, everyone can see my screen. Yep, okay, awesome. Yeah, I think I'm probably going to be echoing a lot of the ideas that have been coming out from the previous speakers, which is really great. We're all in sync in terms of ideas. So, you know, maybe I'll add a little bit more to it. And really, a lot of the things we heard was pretty spot on with what we do. But just a little background on our chapter. We started in 2020, and it was started off a seed grant that we, SACNAS chapter leaders, wrote this campus climate improvement grant at our university, and that is the seed money we gained to start the SACNAS chapter, which is really, really important for us to have, because as somebody's previously mentioned, like money does dictate a lot of some of the events that you can host. So it was nice to have that starting off to kick us off. But then, you know, I know I was at the color leadership, and I know this is a little bit it was varying in terms of what your composition of your leadership was. You know, some were more undergrads, others were graduate students, and we are a group of graduate students who are leading our UMass chapter. And we are hoping, and I think we just had an event the other day that we gained some undergraduate leaders as well, because we're really kind of missing that component. And right now we're about over 25 chapter members, including some faculty who have been very present and active in our chapter up to this point. And some of the strategies we have used has been, like I said, it might be a couple that have already been said. We started and have been gaining a lot of admission into tabling at fairs, and that has been really helpful for us to start to become a name that's more, every time there's a fair happening in a particular college or department, that we get an email to sign up pretty fast, and it's been pretty consistent. So I think our name is carrying at some particular colleges, as well as every fall or spring they're having an admissions fair, something for new students. We are there tabling, and we're spreading the word of our chapter. We are also, like others, getting connected across campus. So we are not really focusing on, we're kind of wide ranging. That's the one nice thing about ARDA leadership at our chapter is I don't think any of us, we're all in different departments, which is kind of a strength in our end, because therefore we know like different people to talk to. We know, there's merging of networks, but there's also networking past who we know. And I think that with our leadership, that's really been a strength for us, is to be able, because we don't overlap, that we are able to contact faculty and administrators, but also we've done like cold calls of like contacting faculty and administrators from department heads, any sort of DEIJB offices, deans. Like we're not afraid to email. We're not afraid to set up a meeting to talk. And that's been a way for us not just to expand our network, but to gain advertising, to gain financial support. Like it's been pretty great, the response we've received. And the third thing is advertisement. And as someone said, we do this too. We post on TV screens on campus buildings. We have flyers throughout campus with a QR code. We always have QR codes. That seems to be the way to be. And I really love the idea of a link tree as well. So that's something we should do. But yeah, that's one thing that we think has helped for people, at least. It's like advertising while we're not having events, right? And the fourth thing being collaborations. And I'm going to share a couple of pictures and examples of what the type of collaborations we are doing. But that has been something that we as well have really tried to make an effort in, because a lot of groups on our campus have really similar missions, and in the sense of like trying to improve the climate, to improve inclusion and belonging, and really help diversify both STEM and expanding past STEM fields. So we have been collaborating with different groups, and that has been one of probably the main way. That's if we're one way to shine, that's probably the way we're shining in our chapter. And that also helps with recruitment as well. And one thing I think would be helpful, I don't know, I know that when I was the leadership, color leadership, some of the students, like undergraduates, had questions about, how do you reach out to administrators? How do you reach out to department heads to ask for help? And I think the advice we had is just be very specific in what you're asking. We sometimes is like, we just need someone to pay for food for this event, or we need help with advertising, or we've asked, somebody else in this office because we are having a hard time reaching this office. And so that's been really helpful, because a lot of times, as soon as you get one person they know, sometimes it turns into they know like 20 people, and then you get connected across that way. So it's been very helpful in that regard. And we've really focused, like I said, we're doing a lot of outreach and collaborations, but we also really want to build a community, and that's been so like so far as we started, like no low pressure on like trying to create events like from the start, like just to be like, okay, we just want to gather together and to get to know each other, especially the past couple of years. I think some of us have been really felt isolated, so we really try to focus on that with our chapter. But we've also been doing some outreach as well. And Yadi is also on the call, one of the people who really spearheads this, working with our local high schools to participate on events related to STEM fields and like connecting students at the high school level, juniors and seniors, with undergraduate grad students at UMass. They're coming. We had a virtual event last year where they came virtually, came to the school, and this year at the end of March, they're going to actually be coming in person. And we have a lot of volunteers at various levels to help connect these folks with not just a STEM major, but what it's like to apply to college and all those types of questions. But yeah, we've been in participation with hosting high school events, but also workshops. And this is in collaboration also with some of our, I think it's the Office of Inclusion and Engagement. So like I said, we're collaborating quite a bit. And then there's another program that we were helping as well that has to help, that works with PhD preparation students who are interested in coming to UMass for a PhD, or to attend a university or to go get a PhD, and it's connecting them across their majors, their interests with actual students in those departments, and talking with them and letting them know what the program is like, what the community is like. And so we've been engaged in that process as well. And also we've been engaged with other like Latin American cultural centers and the other cultural centers here on campus, and hosting and collaborating on events. And that could just be simple as us. We're like, we'll pay for a little bit, pay for the food or something. And we all come together. And another way we are trying to build community, because it's very clear it's not just, it has to be campus spread, because all of us can be isolated in our own departments and campuses or the programs. But then when we start to reach across campus, a lot of us are really looking for community. So we collaborate in that way of doing some celebration for cultural events as well. And one last, hopefully I'm not running out of time. One last thing we do is we participate or collaborate with Life Science Cafe. It's a program here at UMass that focuses on life science scientists talking about their research to the public. And the way we collaborate is like Yadi, who's here, and Natasha, who's also involved in it as well, translate. We've been able to bring in speakers who are able to give their scientific talk in Spanish, and Yadi is the translator as well for that. So it's a program that can be an event that is bilingual, and we really try to target where we're having this particular event to be, and hopefully we're targeting areas where it's where these communities are more identifying with large Latinx or Hispanic communities. So that's been another way we've been collaborating as well, and it's been really rewarding up to this point. But this was example of one, and there was an example of another of folks here at UMass who are able to give their scientific talks to the public in Spanish, and us being able to provide a resource to have it be bilingual. And yeah, and I think that is it. And as to the questions, I think I echo what everyone else said when we're talking about which groups are invited into our groups. The language that everyone has said has been very reminiscent of what we say as well, as it's open to all. There's really nothing else for me to add to that point. We echo the same thing to our community. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Nadia. So I'll pass it along to Alexa Gonzalez and Maria Sullivan now. Thank you.
Thanks for having us, guys. Very excited to be here. So let me share my screen, and then we can can everyone see everything? Yeah, thumbs up. Okay, awesome. So I'm Marie Sullivan. I'm the president of the Duquesne SACNAS chapter.
I'm Alexa, and I'm the vice president.
So Duquesne is a pretty small school. We only have about like 6,000 undergrad. So it's definitely been like interesting recruiting, because we don't have that many people at the school to begin with, but we have close to like 35, 40 members. So we're very proud of that. We did a lot of recruiting this year. So one of the things that I think really helped our recruiting was emailing science professors a slide that they could put into their general class slides about our club. So we emailed like the professor for general bio, general chem, organic chemistry, like classes that would have a lot of different students with science specific majors. And they would just put in our slide about SACNAS that had a QR code to join our GroupMe, our contact info if they were interested, and just kind of like general information about the club. But that was like a really good way to especially get like incoming freshmen or like just underclassmen in general.
Another thing that we found that really worked this year, we just started this, is being very like active on social media. We've always had a very active Instagram page, but this year we started this new thing where we would film videos going around campus, just like asking people different questions. Our first video was just like asking people if they knew what SACNAS was, and if they didn't, we would like educate them, and it would be like really fun because a lot of people didn't know. And then they would like follow us on Instagram and share the video because they like saw themselves in the video, which like just made like, it was just like a domino effect. And a lot of people like found out about the club, and we saw it make an impact in our last event we did, that our attendance was like
Through the roof,
like way more than we had ever had at like any event. And then we did our second video where we like mentioned our upcoming event, and it just like it just helped like reach a lot of different people. So definitely social media is like a really great thing for us.
Yeah. Another thing that we like, especially it's good for us to do at a small school, is just like plain networking. Like you kind of just have to not be shy about it. Like if we heard, oh, so-and-so is Dominican and he studies physics, we would like come up to him and be like, hey, like you should join our club. Like SACNAS is really cool and I think you'd really like it. And you just kind of have to like, sometimes you might embarrass yourself if someone's like, no, I'm not interested in that. Or like, no, I study English. Like I'm not interested in science, but it's pretty worth it because we've had definitely like a couple members who we've been influenced to like come in the club because we like went out of our way to chat with them and be like, hey, I know you're around, you're friends with this person, I think you would like this club. So yeah, you just kind of have to have no shame about it, but that has really worked for us.
Yeah, another thing we've also done is reaching out to other ethnic clubs on campus, like the Latin American Student Association and the Puerto Rican Student Association. The Puerto Rican Student Association, if I'm not mistaken, is like one of the biggest like Hispanic clubs on campus. So we would like make events with them and have like their members join us. It's really been like helpful for both sides. And yeah, it's been pretty helpful as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Thank you to all of our speakers. Let's give a big round of applause to all of them. You could use a clapping emoji if you want. But yeah, if everyone could turn on their cameras and we could take a group photo. Diana, you could let me know when you're done taking the picture.
All right, I'll give everyone a moment to turn on their camera. And I'll take a few just in case anyone's eyes are closed. So I'll give you a second. I'll do a countdown. 3, 2, 1. Okay, hold on. Saving it. And sorry, bear with me. Gotta save it as something. Okay, I'll do one more. Just in case. 1, or no, I was counting backwards, right? Let me continue that. 3, 2, 1. All right, got it. Thank you.
All right, perfect. Thank you, Diana. So now we'll open up the floor for any questions that you may have for the speakers. Feel free to turn on your camera or put it on the chat as well. But yeah.
Hey, Angel, this is Juan. If no one has a question right now, can I just take 1 minute? So good afternoon, everyone. I'm Juan Amador. I am the new executive director for SACNAS. I joined SACNAS in October and attended our national conference in Puerto Rico. And right now we are working on our 2023 National Diversity in STEM Conference, which will be in Portland, Oregon. And along with Daniela, we just returned from Portland just to scout out all the different opportunities that we want to make sure that we have in place. So when you arrive in Portland, you have an experience. You're not going to a conference, you're not going to a meeting, but what I want to provide is an experience for you so that way it supports your goals and dreams, whether it is that graduate program, whether it's a health science, whether it's a medical school, whether it's a research lab. And so some of the activities to give you a heads up as example, engaging more of NIH, the National Institutes of Health, so they have a bigger presence, or NASA, so they have a bigger presence, or even businesses such as Wells Fargo or Amgen or others, so that way they are focusing on diversifying the workforce. I want to really thank Angel and Daniela for supporting you. I just know that we are available to help you. So don't feel that you can't outreach to us. Please continue to engage with Daniela and Angel as you are important to us. You are an extension of SACNAS. You are part of La Familia and you are SACNistas. So thank you so much.
I actually did have a question for the panelists. You guys brought up really great ways to get people involved. And so I'm from the chapter in Cal State Fullerton, and I was really excited to see that our chapter is doing a lot of the same things. So that was great. But we're having a problem with our members like showing up at all. So we're providing the workshops, we're providing the socials, we're doing all the things on our end as officers or board members, and we're having a lot of trouble just getting people to show up. Basically, our school is primarily undergraduates. So I was wondering if anybody could maybe give some advice on how you get people to show up when you're doing all the things and people just aren't coming.
I
I think something. Oh,
sorry. So my name is Marisol. I'm from the UCLA chapter, and I think especially as we have all transitioned kind of back to in person from like hybrid events, it's been a real challenge to get to kind of make that switch. And so what we found works for us, our meetings are generally in the evenings at 5 p.m. And that's a really hard time for a lot of people. It's the end of the day, maybe people want to go home. So we try to offer dinner. And so at our last general meeting, we offered like Thai food, which is nice because there's vegetarian options that are fairly easy. So having food where you can encompass, as many dietary restrictions as possible. It's not always a perfect situation because a lot of the times you don't know who's coming until they show up. And then as well, we have implemented a new system where every sign in to our general meetings, our events, any SACNAS chapter sponsored event. If you sign in, that's an entry for one of the quarterly raffles. And so we have a raffle prize every quarter for 2 members. It can be anything from like UCLA swag or like gift cards, things like that, because I think people like free things. And so if you have the budget for it, that might be something to consider to increase, people showing up to the events.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great idea. Thank you so much.
Something that really worked for us was just being direct. Like, I think it's nice to have kind of like a personal connection with your members. So if your member, like if a bunch of members like miss something and you see them on campus, be like, hey, we really missed you, like at the meeting, like we had so much fun. And that like kind of gives the impression like it's not like you're like, where the hell were you? Like you're not like mad at them. You're like, oh, we missed you. Like it's like a genuine connection. And also kind of like sending a lot of emails, sending a lot of texts, or being like, hey, the meeting is starting right now, like in case you like are late, like that's okay, you can still come. Because I think sometimes people are like, I'm 5 minutes late, I'm not going, like that's embarrassing. But just kind of like making it like a personal connection with your members so that they feel welcomed and like really want to keep coming to the events.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Great question. Does anyone else have any more questions?
I have one, if I may. I wanted to ask our panelists, I mean, first of all, thank you so much for your presentations. It was really cool to see the amount of different ideas, some that I have never heard before. So I hope this has been really helpful for everybody else and validating if you are already doing some of those things as well. My question was for the panelists. I'm curious, what is your biggest challenge with recruitment? And maybe it's kind of what Taylor had already asked about getting people to show up. But if you have another, or if you want to reiterate on that one as being your biggest challenge and how you've approached it. And maybe I'll throw in there how the national office could help you with that.
I could take this question. From our UCLA SACNAS chapter, I think one of the difficulties or challenges that we may have is planning or getting, I guess, the bandwidth to work on all these different activities at the same time. I know that we went over a lot of different ways to do these outreach and to do these recruitment, and the more options and diversity you have in that, the more involvement and work that requires, and planning. So having a organized and like functioning board will help with, making sure everything's done within like a timely manner.
I kind of wanted to piggyback off of that, if there's a bit of time, just because we talked about the whole hybrid events, and I think that that's still pretty popular, as far as people wanting the flexibility to join in if they can't be there in person. And I think that having people join in virtually is better than not having people join in at all. And I think it also has the ability to help increase the reach, right? And so maybe something to that effect. I know that to register for this webinar, there was kind of a process that can be marketed out like towards like all SACNAS chapters, and maybe having some support, from the chapter's office, like finding a way to like, oh, how can we set up like a Zoom link registration process through the national org, and then on both ends, like having that marketed out on the national SACNAS platform can help have like greater reach for certain events. And that does take advanced planning, but that might be something that could be useful to chapters, and that's just a thought.
I might piggyback off Marisol a little bit in terms of how the national chapter can help us, because I know we do receive as SACNAS members to the National Society, a lot of great emails of like webinars and professional development events. I wonder if, and maybe I'm not sure if it exists, and maybe I have missed it, but I kind of wonder if it would be helpful to have some sort of like target that, put that information into a flyer, so we then can put that out as like we can certainly forward the email to our SACNAS listserv, but I think it would also improve the actual like society name if we had a flyer that, because we could print stuff off, and we have department name heads to be like, can you print off 25? We're happy to go post. There's a really cool webinar that's coming up for the National Society. I just kind of wonder if the emails can get captured somehow into like a flyer format that we can then therefore use that as a way to hopefully advertise at the national level, but then a little bit to be able to be like and we also don't forget you have a local chapter here at your institution. Because I think, like Jose said, with everything, all these ideas are really great. There's just a lot of work behind all these ideas, and you need the team to put in the work to execute. And so if at the national level, if they can kind of capture that into different ways that we can share that, I think that would be helpful.
Thank you so much for answering my questions. Angel, I don't know if you froze, but I saw one other question in the chat about how you suggest going about fundraising as a brand new chapter, if we have time for that, or if it's time to wrap.
Yeah, we could definitely answer that. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can
All
hear
right.
you.
Well, yeah.
And just to reiterate for the panelists, the question was, how do you suggest going about fundraising, probably recruiting as well, as a brand new chapter?
I think I can go ahead and start this one off. So I put my answer in the chat as well, but for us, because we're also a new chapter, the best way was for us to do dine-in fundraisers. So typically like Chipotle, Panera, Raising Cane's, things that restaurants that people and students really like to go to. You just have to plan out in advance and advertise as much as possible, especially on the day of and day before the event. Something that we have also done is do a joint fundraiser with other student organizations on campus. So there's like a brewery near the campus where we have like a contract with the owner of that brewery, and however many things are purchased during the time that our social is there, then we get like a certain percentage of those funds, and that has been extremely helpful in getting some funds.
I'll also add, and I think Natasha put it in the chat, and I think it's a way that we found to be more successful than we were anticipating, which was crowdfunding from departments and programs, and really emailing department heads, program heads, deans, and saying, and giving a dollar amount of how much we're looking for. And because sometimes I think if you're just saying we just need financial support, sometimes I might ask, like, how much are you looking for? But if you put a dollar amount as like, we would like, I don't know, $400. And also if you can show that you have members from their college, so that they know that there's 5 undergrads that are in our membership. And we're looking to put on programming to improve their experience, I think that can be used as leverage for them to participate and to give towards your chapters. So that was, like I said, it was a little surprising on our end, because we kind of just like did a wide cast, and there were multiple departments that providing us financial support pretty much right away, which was
Awesome, thank you. So I think we'll conclude now, since most people are leaving now. It's 2 o'clock now, but as a reminder, this webinar has been recorded and will be posted on YouTube this weekend. So please keep an eye out for that to come out. And also just a couple more reminders as well. To any future events that you have in your chapter would like to share with the SACNAS community, please fill out the form that in the chat that Daniela will be putting on right now. It is a great opportunity to promote your events with all SACNAS members. And also, color nominations will open this month. The date will be finalized very soon after I finish reviewing the application, but I will be sending out reminders via email and as soon as possible, so keep an eye out for that. And yeah, please click on the link as well that Daniela's putting in right now. So also a big reminder that annual reports will be due in mid-April as well. Part 1 on the 10th and part 2 on the 17th. And just as a reminder, this report is required to maintain an active status. So Daniela and I will be reviewing the reports really soon for any changes, but will look very similar to last year's as well. So click on the link in the chat as well to look over that. But yeah, that concludes our webinar. Any questions that you have for the national office, please contact me and the SACNAS and the SACNAS team at chapters@sacnas.org.